determinant factor. So the right investment climate is one where an applicant can submit their application, and there's a seamless process in terms of processing their application. They're looking for an environment where there is transparency in the procedures. So these are the components that makes up the right type of investment climate for attracting investors, not the amount of tax concessions that is provided.
And of course, it's always with democracy, you need a stable environment.
A stable environment, right. We have a stable environment, we have a stable currency, we have an educated workforce. Right. All of these are the things that make St. Kitts and Nevis an attractive investment destination.
Right, and I would say educated and skilled workforce.
And skilled workforce, definitely.
Yeah. All right, and the right type of investor?
Well, in terms of the right type of investor, we are looking for investors that brings sustainable development, job creation, and benefits the economy and the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. At the end of the day, the investment should impact in a positive way the citizens of the country.
Okay. Give us a sense of how the agency itself is structured.
Yes. So with any investment promotion agency, or most investment promotion agency has, before I get to the functions, Skipper is under the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Commerce, like I said, with the Minister, Honorable Dr. Dendel Douglas, responsible. With most IPAs, and Skipper, just the same, has maybe 4 main key functions: investment promotion, investment facilitation, aftercare, and advocacy. Investment promotion is the activities that create the awareness of the investment destination. So it's saying to investors that we are open for business, and we communicate what are our value propositions, as we just went to some of them, what makes St. Kitts and Nevis an advantage for an investor. We also look at creating the awareness that the jurisdiction is open for business. That is important, and we do that through a number of ways, through website presence, social media presence, attending investment forums. That is to create the awareness and selling to persons what are the priority sectors, what is it that we're looking investment for. The second component is investment facilitation, which I believe is the most critical aspect of investment promotion, because having promoted the destination, entice persons to come and invest. Once that person has made a decision to invest in St. Kitts, then investment facilitation is that hand-holding procedure where you take where Skipper now holds the investor hand and leads them, walk them through the procedures.
Right.
That is the most important, because if we're attracting investment to our shores, but then it takes a long time for that investment to materialize, then that investor will then look for another jurisdiction. So investment facilitation is the most critical component of investment promotion. And so that is the most, that is one of the areas that Skipper focuses heavily on, in terms of ensuring that once we received an investor's proposal, that we can process it and reach to a decision as quickly as possible.
Okay, and talk to us, I had asked initially about the structure of Skipper. How is the agency structured itself? Of course, as you mentioned, you're the Director of Investment Promotion. Yes, but tell us a bit about the structure there.
Right, so the structure, initially, Skipper is supposed to be function as a statutory body, but it's not quite there yet, so it should be headed by a CEO. At the moment, there's not a CEO in place, but I'm the Director of Investment Promotion / officer in charge of the agency. And then we, under myself, we have, as I explained to you with the different components, we have investment facilitation officers who responsibilities it is to review the proposals, and then we have investment promotion officers who focus more on the promotional aspect, which is the investment forums, social media, getting the message out about our investment climate. We are also involved in policy advocacy, where we advocate for streamlining of the investment climate, and also providing aftercare services to investors that have already established. Because sometimes an investor would receive the approval, and even after receiving the approval, they're still encountering bottlenecks. Part of our responsibility is to continuous engagement with the investors so that we can smooth out some of these bottlenecks for the investors.
Right. Okay, and so you just mentioned in terms of forums and online tools, and those are some of the strategies that Skipper uses in terms of being able to market the destination for that investment climate. But I imagine there will be that one-on-one experience, that the trade expos, as we mentioned, the summits that they happen across the world, that Skipper takes part in those things. How is that presence facilitated?
Well, normally what Skipper would do, a lot of it is by invitation, and there are a lot of events outside, and we cannot attend all of them, of course, so we structure them in terms of the ones that are important to us and the ones that align with our investment promotion strategy. Our investment promotion strategy is aligned with the National Development Planning Framework and the Sustainable Island State Agenda. So everything has to align in order to achieve the right type of investment. So we look for forums that focuses heavily on real estate and tourism development. Tourism is the number one sector, economic earner, and so that is an area that we always participate in as we try to attract tourism-related investment. We also look at forums that focus on renewable energy, agriculture, ICT. So these type of events that bring some sort of benefit.
Right. Okay, and could you tell us who are the main partners of Skipper now, both on a regional level, on a local level, of course, and also internationally? Who does Skipper look to partner with?
Well, it's quite broad. If I say international level, we start with international, of course, Caribbean Export, which is the Caribbean Development Export Development Agency, has been a tremendous partner for Skipper over the years. The Caribbean Association of Investment Promotion Agencies, the World Investment Promotion Agency, and of course our diplomatic missions overseas are also tremendous partners, the diaspora, as they are the eyes and ears, they're our eyes and ears in the investment market. So they're the ones that if someone is looking for to invest in St. Kitts, might contact them first and they put them out. So that's our international partners. Locally, all the various ministries, our developers, the ministers, the cabinet, we interact, all the entities that we interact in order to review and successfully implement an investment proposal.
How would you describe the current investment climate? Because, of course, COVID-19 pandemic took place, and that, of course, would have hampered a lot of investment. We're looking now at an administration in the United States where some of the policies and the announcement have been made has sort of been received in mixed results, some volatility in the market. Of course, there's conflict between Israel and Gaza, Israel and Hamas. I think
yes.
it's important to make
yes.
that distinction. There's, of course, a conflict between Ukraine and Russia as well, too. So how would you describe the investment climate, and how has that impacted St. Kitts and Nevis?
I think, as you would imagine, coming out of COVID, well, not so much that the investment climate, but we would have experienced some fall off in the level of investment for the same reasons that you would have explained. But I say from where we sit at Skipper, we're now beginning to see an uptick in inquiries, which is inquiries and leads where someone will call or they will walk in with an investment proposal, or they will call with an investment idea. So we're getting organic investment interest, along the way. So what we have seen is an uptick. The areas that we have seen concentration in terms of this uptick in interest in investment in the area of agriculture, renewable energy, and of course real estate, tourism related projects, along with some other projects. What I can say from Skipper at the moment is that the investment pipeline, which is the pipeline of projects that we are currently reviewing, is quite healthy. And so we expect that in the near future, as we coach through the review of these projects, that we will see the realization of more projects now rolling out in the not too distant future.
Now, of course, persons can look around the landscape of St. Kitts and Nevis and imagine, of course, where Skipper would have facilitated, especially in tourism. I don't think I necessarily need to call names, but in terms of local projects, any success stories on the local projects where that Skipper has facilitated that persons wouldn't necessarily consider?
Well, I mean, we just went through those things. You know, we have the Koi, Hillsborough. I mean, Dr. Ballantyne was one of the testimonial. Dr. Ballantyne is a local investor. Yes. As was possible, I think that he's our overseas investor. He is in fact a local investor. Most of the hotels, the Ramada, Koi Resort, that has come on stream lately. Skipper has been an integral part of the facilitation. I think one of to me, the biggest success of the policies of Skipper has been the standalone restaurant stimulus package, which started back in 2009. That package was introduced, as you see, during the height of the global economic crisis and the economic downturn. And this policy was implemented to assist then the restaurant sector, which was a key component of the tourism sector, to grow. And when you look around today, in terms of the mushrooming of the restaurant sector, through that incentive program, I mean, we have specialized restaurants, we have different cuisines that we did not have back in 2009, 2010 when this policy was, and it keeps growing. We're receiving applications for opening of new restaurants almost on a weekly basis. Of course, restaurants provide jobs, and I said before, it's a critical support to the tourism sector.
Right. Okay. So you mentioned, of course, Expos. That St. Kitts and Nevis has a presence there. And as I would have mentioned in the opening and currently featured on the Facebook page of Skipper, is the World Expo 2025 that is taking place in Osaka, Japan. So we want to talk a bit more about the Expo, but in order to set it up, we're going to take our first break, and we'll hear from some persons who came to St. Kitts and Nevis to help to prepare the groundwork for St. Kitts and Nevis participation. So stay right there, Mr. Jacobs. Stay with us, viewers, listeners. We'll be right back with more InFocus.
The Expo 2025 Osaka, Kansai, Japan will be held in Japan, Osaka, from April to October next year. We invite different countries to have their exhibition in our exhibition park. And this time we are here as a part of JICA assistance program. And the purpose of the program is to compile recommendations through our consultation of exhibition planning in participating countries on the perspective of achieving SDGs, as well as our theme of the Expo, which is designing future society for our lives.
Welcome back to InFocus. We continue our discussion with Stanley Jacobs, who is the Director of Investment Promotion at the St. Kitts Investment Promotion Agency. All right, World Expo, Mr. Jacobs, and as mentioned, persons would have just heard a bit about some of the groundwork that was laid for St. Kitts and Nevis to participate. But first of all, let's establish what the World Expo is, because I'm sure some persons may be confused that they're not sure what it is. Tell us about that.
Great, because that's a great question to start with, because as you're quite right, a lot of people are not aware of what World Expo is, and I've been explaining it to persons almost on a daily basis. So the World Expo are traditionally called the World Fair, is held every 5 years, and it's a gathering of countries from around the world to display their achievements, focus to display their cultural heritage, collaboration between different countries with a focus on engaging each other, countries engaging each other in terms of world peace, sustainability, environmental concerns. So it's a huge event. The Osaka Expo has 166 countries and organizations are currently displaying at the Global Expo.
Okay, and when did the Expo start? Of course.
Great. Well, in terms of Expo, it goes back a long way, and I was going to, dissect into that. The first World Expo was held in 1821 in London. And since that, because of the success of that Expo, it has continued since that. The Bureau International, the Expo, is the organization that runs the Expo. So it's almost like FIFA is the governing body for football, the IOC is the governing body for Olympics, the Bureau Des Expo, the Bureau International Des Expo is the governing body for Expo. So countries bid, like how we will bid to host the World Cup, countries bid to host the Expo. So this Expo, Japan won the bid, and Japan will be hosting the Expo. In 2030, that bid was won by Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And you will realize, like the various events that I just called, it is the city. So it's Osaka, Japan, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. 2020 was Dubai. 2015, Milan, Italy. And Shanghai, before that was Shanghai, China.
China, okay. And how many times has St. Kitts and Nevis been represented at the Expo?
Well, the one that I can speak of, that I'm aware of since I've been at Skipper, is Shanghai in 2010, Dubai in 2020, and now Osaka, Japan.
What makes it important for St. Kitts and Nevis to be among the 166 countries taking place or being present at the World Expo?
It's extremely important because this is a global platform. It gives us the opportunity to display our achievements, our heritage, to promote our destination, to promote St. Kitts and Nevis in terms of who we are as a people, promote our culture, and to create the awareness of St. Kitts and Nevis. There's so many persons from my experience being at the pavilion in Osaka that come up to the pavilion and they've never heard the name St. Kitts and Nevis. So it's important for us to create that awareness because we live in a global space and we have to be able to be part of that global space as well.
Now, an important aspect of the Expo that most persons may not be aware of is the timing of it. And I'm not speaking about in terms of when it's hosted. I'm speaking about the length of it.
Yes.
It started back in April. I think you were there. Tell us about that.
Yes, so the Expo opened on the 13th of April, and it's going to run until the 13th of October. So all the Expos run for 6 months. And they open 7 days. The Expo Village opens 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So it's a grind, it's a lot of hard work. It's important that, it's a huge undertaking for countries in terms of if you look at the sites from social media in terms of the pavilion, the architecture, the structures that are put up, it's significant investment by these countries. Of course, with St. Kitts and Nevis, we don't have the resources to construct these elaborate pavilions. So we receive technical assistance and assistance from the host country.
All right. Okay. And so you tell us it's 166 countries. Now, how is St. Kitts and Nevis being represented at the Expo? Because, of course, there'll be so much to do and so much to look around. And while I mentioned that there's some photos that have been running on screen, persons who are looking, they'll get a sense of what's been happening. And, of course, those who may be listening, I always encourage them strongly to go back and look at the live video feed or check us out on social media. But, yes, tell us about how St. Kitts and Nevis is represented there.
Right, so the St. Kitts and Nevis Pavilion is entitled Creating a Sustainable Island State. And for us, we want to showcase what we in the Federation are doing to achieve the Sustainable Island State agenda, while at the same time displaying our cultural heritage so that the world can know who we are. So we focus, at the pavilion, we focus on 4 zones, which is the tourism zone, because tourism is the leading economic driver, renewable energy, and agriculture. And the central thread of it all is information technology, but particularly focusing on the works of the Robotic Association. Now why that is important, and this is something that I should have mentioned earlier, the theme of Expo 2025 Osaka, Japan is creating future societies for lives. So every expo has a central theme. And the central theme for this expo is creating future societies for lives. So basically from the theme, what it means is, what is it that countries would want their future society to look like? So for us in St. Kitts and Nevis, what do we envision a future St. Kitts and Nevis looking like? And how would technology play a role? Mm-hmm. And so we brought on board the Robotic Association because they have made tremendous achievements in terms of robotic display and robotic development to showcase how technology, robotics, and STEM can be an important part in helping us achieve the sustainable island state.
Right, and that partnership with the Robotic Association, which of course SKNRA, I'll call them for short,
yes.
We want to talk a bit more about that later, but go back to in terms of the aspects that you mentioned, and let's talk about the cultural aspect as well too, of course, because that's very important. There's around some photos there with our culture, yes, in terms of the masquerade that is there, in terms of the M series of photos. We can put that on the screen, but talk to us about the cultural aspect of it as well too, because of course it's vastly different compared to what persons we are accustomed to in Osaka, Japan, and the other countries in Asia and the Middle East.
Yeah, it's important for us to tell our story about who we are as a people. Like I've said, most persons in that part of the world have never heard the name St. Kitts and Nevis. So there's an opportunity for us to sell, to tell them what we're all about, what our cultural heritage are, tell them about our food, our customs, our norm. It's important that we share that experience with the Japanese population and the visitors to the pavilion. Now, one of the things that persons should also know is that Japan is one of the most affluent countries in the world, one of the most wealthiest countries in the world. So they have a lot of disposable income, and they travel a lot. And so if we can create the awareness of St. Kitts and Nevis and entice persons from Japan to look at this region as a vacation area that they can take a vacation and come to visit St. Kitts and Nevis. One of the question that we get asked the most by visitors to the pavilion is, how can we get there, or where it is located? And so when you look at the pavilion, you see that we have a globe, mm-hmm, and that globe is helping us to explain to the Japanese, who are visual persons. And so we use visual objects to explain to them our location, and that has been going very well.
Right, and we would have seen it on screen currently for those who are looking at us online. Okay, so in terms of you mentioned, we talked about the cultural aspect of it. Are there shows where, as we saw, like someone dressed up in the masquerade, where the culture can be featured, where the masquerade can perform, at the food from St. Kitts and Nevis? Is there experiences where they can be featured, stuff like that?
Right, so that will happen on what we call National Day. So on National Day, each country has the opportunity the spotlight will be on that country, and you have the opportunity to put on whatever act or whatever activities you want for that day. So St. Kitts and Nevis National Day is the 20th of August, 2025. So during that National Day, our cultural activities will be on display. So we already have been in discussion and well advanced with our discussions with the Department of Creative Economy, because of course Skipper is an investment promotion agency, mm-hmm, and putting on performance is not our forte.
That's right.
So we have to reach out to the Department of Creative Economy, who are the experts in putting on these type of events. And so our planning is well underway in terms of what they will be showcasing. I can tell you they will be showcasing aspects of our culture in terms of dance and music, folklore. All of this will be wrapped up in their package that they will present.
Okay, so outside of some of the technological gadgets that we're going to talk about a bit later, someone going to the boat of St. Kitts and Nevis, what will they see? Right,
so the first thing that, well, one of the things that, the first thing that attracts persons to the pavilion is the robots. That has been a huge hit because they want to know, tell us more about the robots, who built them? And we said to them, these are built by students in St. Kitts and Nevis. And they said, well, that means your education system must be of very high standard. So they're quite impressed with the work of the Robotic Association. And of course, a lot of the content, most of the content that is displayed at the pavilion are displayed in visuals, video. Mm-hmm. That has been getting a lot of attention because persons will walk up to the pavilion and the video will pull them in and they will come and they will say, your country is very beautiful. Could you tell me more?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so let's talk a bit now about the collaborations, the agencies, and the videos that are there that are being featured. You mentioned, of course, that there are 4 key areas: tourism, agriculture, ICT, and energy. So those would include investment opportunities in St. Kitts and Nevis. Does it show what is there and what is possible for persons to invest in, what persons can come to experience in St. Kitts and Nevis in terms of visiting, the type of agricultural developments and stuff? Tell us a bit about that.
Right. So, of course, you know, investment is always going to be a big part of what we display. Of course, so we showcase in the tourism, we showcase a lot of the tourist type of activities, but we're not just focused on the tourist type of activities, we also look at the built environment in terms of the hotels and the different activities that you can do in the tourism space. And that also then will entice persons to say, okay, well, this looks like a great destination that I can make a tourism investment. And likewise for agriculture, we showcase what we're doing in agriculture in order to achieve the Sustainable Island State Agenda and what we're doing under agriculture, because those are 2 big sectors that will go a long way in helping us achieve the Sustainable Island State Agenda: renewable energy and agriculture.
Mm-hmm. And so tell us a bit more about that Sustainable Island State Agenda and how it's being captured and reflected to our persons who are coming to our pavilion as well, too, because of course it's important for persons to be aware, and the Prime Minister, of course, has been selling it internationally. He's going to the UN to inform persons that we have this agenda, of course, as he mentioned, not seeking pity but seeking partnerships. I imagine that is all a part of the mandate that Skipper
exactly.
has.
That's also part of the mandate that Skipper has, is because at every investment promotion agency, and Skipper no different, ensures that its investment promotion and strategy aligns with the national development strategy. So which means we take lead off of the national development strategy, and whatever that in order to achieve the sustainable island state, Skipper has to and will play a critical role, because achieving the sustainable island state agenda means attracting sustainable investment. So everything goes together. Everything goes together. It works hand in hand.
Okay, so you mentioned it several times in terms of the Robotics Association. Tell us about the partnership with them.
Right, so when we look at when we started this preparation for Expo 2025 Osaka, maybe about 2 years ago, because the planning takes a lot of planning, we look at the theme, and the theme for this Expo, creating future societies for our lives. We felt that the work that the Robotic Association is doing will fit nicely within this team. And so we reached out to them, and they were gladly accepted our invitation to be a partner, but also to build the robots specifically for Osaka, Japan. So it is not robots that they had off the shelf or robots that were off the shelf that they ordered. These robots were developed specifically for Osaka, Japan. And I can speak to one, as now we're looking at BERT, which is the humanoid robot on the screen, and that is probably the most popular robot, which is showcasing research in prosthetics and limbs and those things, and how we can use robots, robotic arms and those things. And then one of our most second popular robot is a robot that was built. So now every visitor to the pavilion comes with a passport, which is like a mock passport, and they get a stamp, like an entry stamp you'll receive if you come to the country.
Right.
And that is what is right. So now we're looking at the robot, the robotic stamp, the auto stamp. This robot, developed by the students of the SKNIS Nevis Robotic Association, actually stamps the passport for the visitor. So it's an automatic stamp. And there's no other pavilion in the 166 countries and organizations that are displaying at Osaka Expo 2025 that has an auto stamp robot. It's really highlights the brilliance and the tremendous achievement by the students of the Robotic Association. And this robot, the component that actually holds the stamp was printed using 3D printer, using a 3D printer by the students. So they had to get the dimensions of the actual stamp, which was in Osaka. We did not have the stamp here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So the organizers sent us photo of the stamp and the dimensions, and the students were able to print the arm almost perfect, so that when they got to Japan, it was just a matter of fitting the stamp onto it. I mean, it was tremendously brilliant work by the students.
Now, something else that has also caught the person's attention, and I would have seen it in the photos, and we have some photos there that will be displayed on screen as well too, is the inclusion of virtual reality.
Yes, virtual reality is part of the display, and we're using that heavily in the tourism zone because we want to give visitors to the pavilion a sense of being in St. Kitts and Nevis. And that is what virtual reality allows you to do. So a visitor will put on the headset, and they will be like they are walking along the beach in Nevis, at Penny's Beach in Nevis, or they're walking along the Frigate Bay Strip in St. Kitts, or they're taking a tour of Brimstone Hill, and they will feel like they're in the environment, like they're in the space. The students of the Robotic Association have taken their research much further with virtual reality, where the person that is experiencing the virtual reality headset, you actually feel like you are walking in the space and interacting with the space. So you're not just seeing the space, you're actually in the space. So you can feel yourself walking up 4th Street. So the work that is being done by the Robotic Association is tremendous. And it has been a huge hit because, like I said, it gives the visitors to the pavilion, and most of whom have never heard about St. Kitts and Nevis, a visual, a visual perspective of what St. Kitts and Nevis is as a destination. So they see the beach, they see the food. Some of the videos show dive sites, so they get to see the underwater world. And so all of this is helping to create that awareness that we can increase or get visitors coming from Japan. We know that they have a lot of disposable income, and we know they travel a lot. But they don't come to this part of the world because where do Japanese vacation? United States, or they go to the mainland United States or Hawaii.
Right. Mr. Jacobs, who came up with the concepts of a robot that stamps a passport, that prosthetics, Bert, as you mentioned, his name is, and the virtual reality? Is it something that Skipper guided, or did the children come up with it themselves?
Oh, no, this is not something. This came straight out of the Robotics Association. As a matter of fact, we just told them that we want to have robots on display. We did not know what they would produce. As a matter of fact, it was the first time I saw them is when we got to Osaka, Japan, and they unboxed them. So we did not know what exactly they want to build.
And your takeaways when you actually saw them?
Oh, we were wowed. we were in awe at the level of work, the level of commitment, and the level of professionalism that went in to ensure that St. Kitts and Nevis had a display that I believe can rival any other country in this world.
Because with 166 countries being represented, there must be a way for St. Kitts and Nevis
to stand out. There has to be a way for us to stand out, and the Robots Association has achieved us that in ensuring that St. Kitts and Nevis stand out.
And it's a credit to our greatest resource, which is our people.
Our people.
We have nothing else.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So, Mr. Jacobs, we're going to talk a bit more about the Expo and the experience there, but we're going to have to take our final break at this time.
Sure.
Right? So stay right there. We'll be right back, viewers, with more In Focus.
If you haven't done it as yet, please do it today. Subscribe to our YouTube page at SKNIS Media for regular updates, live coverage, and even more information on your government. While you're at it, like, share, and interact with our Facebook and Instagram pages at SKNIS Media and SKNIS Info.
Welcome back to In Focus. We continue our discussion with Stanley Jacobs, the Director of Investment Promotion at the St. Kitts Investment Promotion Agency, and we're talking all about St. Kitts and Nevis experience at World Expo 2025 taking place in Osaka, Japan. Now, Mr. Jacobs, I established that you were there for the opening. Of course, you being the director there, it's important that you would have been there to make sure that things are in place and ensure that the opportunities for St. Kitts and Nevis to be explored by investors, potential investors, visitors, is being on track, it's properly done. So talk to us a bit about the opening there. I understand, according to the Facebook page, that there was 31,000 visitors, and we have a number of photos in the D series, Randy, that we can put up on the screen as well too. Tell us about that, the numbers who are visiting.
Yes, so well, as I said, my position at the Expo is I'm the Commissioner General. So I'm the Commissioner General for St. Kitts and Nevis. I also have the distinct pleasure of serving on the steering committee of the College of Commissioner Generals. So I'm on the committee that is sort of the interface between the 166 participating countries and the hosts. We are the committee that looks at issues that may come up along the way and try to resolve issues. In terms of opening day, like I said, it started off with a bang. I think for the Japanese, they did a lot of work in terms of creating the awareness and getting persons out to the Expo. So in terms of attendance, we have seen on the opening day, I think the attendance was up to about 150 persons. To the St. Kitts and Nevis Pavilion, we got, well, for that week, opening week, about 31,000. I can tell you that...
So let me just correct you, because you said 150 persons. I imagine you meant 150,000.
150,000
right,
on opening day, yes.
Yeah.
150,000, yes. I can tell you that we have surpassed 200,000 visitors to the St. Kitts and Nevis Pavilion. That's 200,000 visitors to the St. Kitts and Nevis Pavilion, which is tremendous. We're quite pleased with the way things are going.
And based on that trajectory, because of course our National Day, of course, is still to come. Based on that trajectory, what do you think, like in terms of projections, that how many persons will visit St. Kitts and Nevis Pavilion there?
Well, if I have to make a prediction, I would want to say that by the end of Expo, we should surpass 500,000, 500,000 persons, I think, which will be a tremendous feat for a small country, but also the smallest nation in the Western Hemisphere.
So how do you measure success at the Expo? What qualifies as St. Kitts and Nevis' experience being successful?
I think a number of factors. I mean, first and foremost is the awareness. You can't underestimate the impact that we're having on the global stage. Like I said, so far we've surpassed over 200,000 visitors to the pavilion. I can tell you about 80% of the visitors to the pavilion have never heard the name St. Kitts and Nevis. Not even must say to know where we are located. So just that alone is quite impactful. Of course, I'm telling the world about our achievements to the Robotic Association, what we are doing to achieve the Sustainable Island State, our Sustainable Island State agenda, attracting investment, attracting visitors. And so I think that at the end of the day, if we are able to meet our target of 500,000 visitors, somewhere in there, there will be benefits for tourism, benefits for investment, and benefits for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis on a whole.
And so what was your message for persons in St. Kitts and Nevis who are questioning why is it that St. Kitts and Nevis has this representation there? Because then a question would be, is it translating to persons coming to St. Kitts and Nevis? Is there a translation to persons investing in St. Kitts and Nevis? We participated, I think, in 3 of them that you mentioned in the past. Do we see that translation taking place?
Well, I could speak for this one, but I can tell you that what we're seeing is that a serious interest in persons who want to visit, St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, the Global Expo attracts visitors from Japan. It's hosted in Japan, so the majority of the visitors are from Japan. But Expo also attract a large number of international visitors. So at our pavilion while I was there, I've met our own economic citizens. Many of them have visited the pavilion. We have met potential investors who want to know about investing in St. Kitts and Nevis. Of course, a lot of persons ask, how do we travel, how do we get there? But cutting back to our economic investors, as we have the Investment Gateway Summit coming up around the corner, and we have had persons coming up and they look and they see St. Kitts and Nevis, and we had a group of 4 men who came to the pavilion, and we said, welcome to St. Kitts and Nevis pavilion, and they said, welcome to St. Kitts and Nevis. They said, we are citizens. So it tells you how far-reaching and the impact of being there is, and they were so happy to see their country, St. Kitts and Nevis, among the other countries of the world being represented. This representation is important.
Right. Okay. And so it wraps up, as you mentioned, in terms of which month was it you just mentioned that it ends?
In October, the 13th of October.
Right. Okay. So I imagine you'll be heading back there. And how does the staff deal with 6 months of that grind as you described it?
It's hard work, but I think they are committed to the cause, and they get up early every day. They have to take the train. They have to commute by train to the pavilion, and they finish at work at 9, and they commute by train back to the apartment. They're in a country of 125 million people, where they don't speak the language, but they have to learn the Japanese culture, and they have to learn their way around, and they have done tremendously well.
And I'm particularly excited for the opportunities that the St. Kitts and Nevis Robotic Association is receiving out there, because, as mentioned, we are doing, well, the young people, when I said we are actually meant St. Kitts and Nevis,
yes,
the young people, of course, they're doing great things in that. And it's really something to be proud of, and
it is.
Competing in international events and placing within the top ranks, it's very impressive, and certainly we are grateful that opportunities at the Expo and similar opportunities are able to expose our young people and our system of education here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yeah, we're hopeful that we can get partnership coming out of this Expo who can partner with the Robotics Association in terms of taking their program further. How can we now take this program, nurture it, and take it further with international partners.
Okay. Now you mentioned, Mr. Jacobs, and finally that St. Kitts and Nevis will be hosting an investment gateway summit next week. Tell us a bit about the summit and the role that Skipper will play.
Well, I can't speak for the summit organizer because Skipper is not the lead agency in terms of organizing the Investment Gateway Summit. But from my understanding, the Investment Gateway Summit is designed to attract our economic citizens and other persons who are looking to invest in St. Kitts and Nevis. So for us, for the Investment Gateway Summit is to welcome persons, invite persons who have already invested in our Citizenship by Investment program to visit the country and explore further investment opportunities. In terms of what role Skipper is playing, Skipper is a part of the program on opening day, where myself is on a panel that will focus on investment and investment opportunities. So again, it gives us another opportunity to talk about the investment climate in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and as we prepare to wrap up, any final comments that you would like to make to persons?
Yes, in wrapping up, I just want to, again, to reiterate the purpose of Skipper, to function as a one-stop shop for investment. Is the first place that investors would turn to in terms of getting their projects started and moving along. We are set up to ensure that proposals, the procedures are seamless and smooth, which will save the investors time and money in terms of getting their projects started. As like I said before in my opening remarks, investment facilitation which is the ease of the procedures, streamlining the procedures. That is the most critical aspect of investment promotion. And if we get that perfect, we will see an uptick in the level of investment, because investors invest not in jurisdictions that offer them the most tax incentives. Investors invest in jurisdictions where it is seamless and the procedures are seamless in getting their projects through to implementation.
You mentioned that one of the roles of Skipper would be policy advocacy. Is there anything in the pipeline that Skipper is looking at currently that would help to enhance the environment, help to grow the investment culture here in St. Kitts and Nevis that's being recommended?
Yes, definitely. I just returned last week from a high-level meeting in Miami of OECS investment promotion agencies, and some ministers of government also attended, where we're looking at the implementation of the WTO Investment for Development Agreement. It's an agreement that now, the countries, 126 countries have already signed on to this agreement with the WTO. Within the OECS, Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada and Dominica has signed on. It's only the Saints have not signed on: St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and St. Lucia. And so we are looking to sign on to this agreement. What the investment facilitation agreement does is that it's a tool in the toolbox of ensuring that the investment climate is conducive to attracting high levels of sustainable investment. One of the things that we have to understand with our in our region is that investment and trade follows countries naturally that have natural resources. Mm-hmm. So if a country has natural resources, investment will follow. Look at Guyana. Absolutely. They discovered oil. All the investors are rushing there. So in countries like us in the region, St. Kitts and Nevis and Antigua, the OECS in particular, that do not have natural resources, what is going to make the difference for us is our investment climate. And so this tool was developed by the World Bank, and that we are now we have reviewed, and we have reviewed again, and it's just for us to sign on to, will help us because it provides capacity building, the training in terms of getting us to the level that we should be in relation to our investment climate. And the key part of it, as I said, is investment facilitation, improving our facilitation processes. Investment facilitation for development agreement.
It must be seamless, it must be transparent.
It must be transparent.
And of course, it's all wrapped up in good governance.
In good, yes.
All right. Stanley Jacobs, we'll have to leave it right there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of InFocus.
Thank you very much, Ian. Thank you for having me. Thank you to our viewers and your listeners. It was quite a pleasure being here.
All right. And we'd like to thank you, viewers and listeners, for joining us for this edition of InFocus as well. We trust that you will join us next week at the same place, at the same time, for another edition of InFocus. Remember, it's your government, your business. I'm Ian Richards.
Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.